Hey everyone, friends! If you've been looking for what to play from the new releases, I've got some great news for you. You've come to exactly the right place. In this top list, I've picked out the most interesting new games that literally just came out recently and totally deserve your attention. I'm 100% sure that in this list, you'll definitely find something for yourself. At least one game that'll catch your eye for sure. Well then, without any long intros, enjoy watching. Let's go. Doom: The Dark Ages. There's been a lot of debate around this entry. Some people compare it to Eternal and expected the same fast-paced carnage, while others compare it to the 2016 reboot and expect that same meaty, moderately fast-paced, more, let's say, default shooter experience. But I think, friends, there's no point comparing all three games. Why? The developers have made three completely different games for us over 10 years, each built on different foundations and mechanics. Doom 2016 is more of a standard first-person shooter. Doom Eternal is like a combat puzzle where you constantly need to switch weapons, dart around the arena from side to side, and use the environment to get out alive. And Doom: The Dark Ages is just something else entirely. It's not like the previous two ID Software games. The new Doom feels like a mix of shooter and, probably a Souls-like. The parrying mechanic in the game fits perfectly. Thanks to the responsive controls, parrying feels excellent to me. And the Doomslayer's shield in general is such a cool feature that literally turns the main character into a tank, who just sweeps away all this hellish scum in close combat. And it feels magnificent. The developers didn't forget about ranged weapons either. The game has new, really cool guns that I generally liked. The game handles this aspect really well. All the weapons look impressive, and if you learn to use them depending on the situation, the game becomes just an attraction of shield bashing and gun blazing. In general, it's a unique mechanic that definitely won't let you get bored. The visuals are also great. The artists clearly put in effort, and technologically the game looks beautiful. The only issue is with the music. And no, it's not about Mick Gordon not being among the composers, there's just somehow not enough music, and it's the least memorable in the series, in my opinion. But again, that's my taste. Maybe someone else will dig it. Overall, I definitely recommend checking out this game if you liked the previous two parts, and I can confidently recommend it to people who haven't played the previous games at all, but love fun, action-packed shooters. I think you'll definitely enjoy the game. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I played 7 hours on Game Pass, reaching the desert part. And you know, friends, I just couldn't help but support the developers by buying this game on Steam, even though the price is pretty high in my opinion. But what other games should we support if not ones like this? The game is made with genuine love and completely follows Indiana Jones canon. The style is maintained in everything, from staging and animation to musical arrangement. It's an excellent meditative adventure with exploration of beautiful locations, searching for secrets, puzzles, and hidden passages. Plus, the game is seasoned with an excellent story, quality cutscenes, and dialogue. But I'll warn you right away. If you expected Uncharted-style gameplay, that's not happening here. Forget it. This is mainly calm, meditative gameplay with exploration of beautiful locations, mixed with hand-to-hand combat and occasional shootouts. But you can even avoid shootouts if you like stealth. In general, friends, this adventure game is truly a worthy product, made with love for details and little things. If you love watching Indiana Jones or watched it as a kid, well then I highly recommend playing this. I think you'll be absolutely thrilled. In my opinion, these are the games worth buying and supporting their further development. It really turned out to be a surprisingly good game that I had no expectations for at all. So yeah, give it a try. Atomfall. This is surprisingly an excellent game that really knows how to do RPG. I like the game so much, friends, that I completed it twice in a row, and I still want more. You know what's most surprising? How in the modern world can a project come out that doesn't try to please the modern casual audience? Where they won't hold your hand and shower you with tons of ammo for every little thing you do in the open world. For example, in other games of similar themes, I always rushed headfirst forward, and I consciously ignored many resources and stuffed them in a bottomless box. Like in some Fallout, where even on maximum difficulty you start trading stim packs, mines, and grenades because of how many you've accumulated. Special mention goes to the developers' love for details and how authentic a world they created. The animations in the game are very pleasant, and everything related to weapons is executed brilliantly. Music, dialogue, ambient sounds, various interaction sounds are so good that, it's hard to believe you're playing what is essentially a budget AA game. I could say a lot more good things, but this game is definitely not for everyone. As I said earlier, your typical modern gamer who gets lost without quest markers has a 100% chance of not liking it. And that's not even criticism or an attempt at mockery, just a warning so casuals don't even waste their time on it. This game requires the right mindset, immersion, and desire to explore this world. This game makes you really think. Use your brain and attention. Use Steam Notes so you don't forget or miss anything during the game. Have I ever used this feature in any other game? Of course not. To sum up, I want to say just one thing, guys. This game is one of the few in the modern industry that respects you as a player. It doesn't consider you an idiot incapable of making decisions independently. That's what I loved about this game. The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion Remastered. That same game I played for days on end in childhood. And I swear, friends, it looked exactly the same. Only back then my imagination was rendering the picture, and now my graphics card is sweating, trying to handle Unreal's power. And if you think about it, there's something poetic about the game running at 30 FPS. Just like back in 2006 when instead of a computer, I had a prehistoric calculator. Let's call it full immersion and nostalgia. But seriously though, guys, the graphics are simply top tier. The technical aspect deserves special praise. Using a hybrid Unreal Engine 5 combined with Oblivion's original engine, that's just a genius solution. The game looks modern while preserving the unique charm of that same 2006 game. Of course, my emotions might be slightly colored by the fact that this is my favorite part of the Scrolls series, but objectively speaking, the remaster definitely deserves attention and purchase. Now I'm completely calm about the future of my beloved series. If things continue like this, maybe Elder Scrolls 6 won't disappoint us. Yes, the remaster has minor issues with gameplay and optimization, and doesn't support mods, but that's probably just a matter of time. The game just came out and has already shown its potential. I hope things will only get better. Overall, friends, this is exactly the update that needed to be made. Preserve the spirit of the original while giving the game new life with modern technologies. I rarely say this, but this time Bethesda did great. Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. This is a very distinctive and interesting game. If you recently enjoyed the Oblivion remaster, don't skip this game. Yes, of course, you can feel the small budget of a small studio, which is reflected in fairly average graphics and animations, also low environmental interactivity. That's true. The open world itself is clearly smaller than Bethesda game worlds, and is quite densely packed with events. Sometimes you can't walk 10 meters without stumbling upon an interesting cave or a new quest. On one hand, yes, that's a plus. You rarely get bored. But on the other hand, such density creates the feeling that you're exploring, a communal apartment. But at the same time, the developers fully capitalized on their strengths. Here's decent musical accompaniment and ambience. Simply magnificent art design that took the original board game's art as a foundation and developed it further. Thick and viscous dark fantasy atmosphere where there's only despair and pain. From the start, the player is surrounded by lawlessness, decay, and corruption. Mysteries multiply, the plot twists like a whirlpool and carries you to the very end. Many quests have ambiguous outcomes, and many characters truly embody that same gray morality. Many compare this game to both Scrolls and Dark Souls simultaneously. I'd say that's partly true. There are quest markers and a compass here, so you won't get that same immersiveness as in Morrowind, for example. Bosses and strong enemies are dangerous probably only for the first few hours of the game, so there's no constant, sense of danger like in Souls-likes. But maybe for some people that'll even be a plus, that you don't die 100 times on one boss. I'd say the game is simply well-balanced and very casual-friendly. Here's excellent art design and music, reliable time-tested first-person action RPG gameplay, decent graphics, interesting stories and quests, and constant stimulation to explore this game world. You won't be able to get bored here even for a minute. And all this creates that same combination we've been starving for. Roadcraft, a very pleasant, interesting, and most importantly addictive game. I feel like, I've returned to childhood when I played in the sandbox with friends on dump trucks, tractors, excavators, and built houses out of sand. Back when I was little, I dreamed that such games could be played even at home, but parents probably wouldn't have allowed setting up a sandbox in the room. But now, such a sandbox exists on my computer, and I'm again having huge fun, just like in childhood, driving dump trucks and building roads. And besides dump trucks, there are also various cranes, rollers, asphalt pavers, and in general, complete freedom for a big kid. As for the aspects of the game that were simplified compared to previous parts, personally I liked such changes. In Mudrunner, SnowRunner, and Expeditions, I always skipped night, for example. I don't like driving in the dark. The fact that gas doesn't run out isn't scary either, because this game isn't about overcoming rough terrain, although that's here too, but more about construction. So, thanks to the developers for not forcing us to interrupt for fuel delivery and refueling, allowing us to focus on the main aspect of the game. As a conclusion, I'll say that if you, like me, love meditative games you can just chill with after school or work, then Roadcraft is clearly your choice. But if you expect an experience from this game comparable to SnowRunner, when you have to save every drop of fuel, constantly drag a bunch of spare parts, and use winches to pull trucks completely stuck in swamps, then you're definitely in the wrong place. This game focuses specifically on construction, and overall this game, as I already said, is very interesting, addictive, and by the way, I forgot to mention, yes, a very beautiful game. South of Midnight. This is a third-person action-adventure that immerses us in a fantasy world with gothic notes and the atmosphere of the American South. The main character is a girl named Hazel, whose house was destroyed by a flood and whose mother was carried away in an unknown direction by the current. After the disaster, Hazel sets out on a journey to learn magic, find her mom, and find a new home. Hazel becomes a weaver, someone who must re-sew the torn threads between worlds. Her magic is based on healing the world and transforming enemies' dark energy into something bright. The game's strong points that immediately catch attention are the visual and unique art with animation. It'll captivate you from the first frames, trust me. Here's seemingly hand-drawn character and environment design and stunning stop-motion animation stylization. It's especially noticeable in cutscenes. This unusual artistic choice gives special charm to key story moments. Sound design, like the soundtrack, serves not just as background, but as a powerful instrument thematically connecting all game components together. The musical accompaniment is a skillful blend of blues, jazz, and American folk. Music here isn't just background, friends. It's a full part of the game. And the strongest aspect is the story part, supported by Southern Gothic folklore. It's a whole treasure trove of history where mythical creatures aren't just monsters, but living embodiments of local residents' pain and suffering, where well-known urban legends interweave with specific characters' personal tragedies. In the end, we have, yes, maybe straightforward, but solid adventure game with flashes of originality. It tells a story that's rarely given attention in the gaming industry. And first of all, it's a valuable experience. A kind of virtual tour of that South, that fairy tale you're unlikely to see anywhere else. Studio Pick-Pock finally released their new game, Into the Dead: Our Darkest Days in Early Access, a side-scroller about survival during zombie apocalypse. In short, friends, I'd describe this game like this. It's this war of mine from the Walking Dead world. You won't come up with a better description. The game takes place in 1980 in the fictional Texas town of Walton, which found itself at the epicenter of zombie apocalypse. You'll lead a group of survivors and try to save them from the chaos-captured city. Key gameplay elements include resource management, shelter improvement, and making difficult moral decisions. Developers put main emphasis on survival realism. You'll need not only physical protection, but psychological support. A special feature is the dynamic shelter system. You'll constantly have to move between hideouts, since no barricade can long hold back the living dead assault. Every night there'll be a shelter siege, creating constant tension. The game presents various options for interacting with threats, from stealthy movement to open confrontations. Developers promise diverse locations of the ruined city and procedural generation of some elements to increase replayability. Special attention is paid to crafting and character development, each having unique characteristics. Soon, developers promise to add new locations and even more various weapons. In general, friends, if you enjoy playing this war of mine, then there's nothing to even think about. Get it and enjoy. But don't forget, of course, that this is still early access and there's maximum 20 hours of content here. SplitFiction. Many epithets can be applied to this game. The number of cool game mechanics just blows your mind. Constantly changing worlds don't let you get bored, and the artistic design is simply phenomenal. I completed the entire game in one sitting and, friends, it's such a shame it ended quickly, despite spending 20 hours in it. Here you can find many hints and references to different games and genres that often bring a smile to your face. SplitFiction's difficulty level is very fair, so people of all ages can enjoy the game, fans of any genres, and just lovers of good games. None of you will leave disappointed. Yes, SplitFiction doesn't have mini-games like It Takes Two had, but they're replaced by insanely cool side quests. You never get bored. Compared to its direct predecessor, It Takes Two, the game's pace has noticeably increased, and SplitFiction moves you quite quickly from one action-packed scene to another. And I can say with confidence that there's no studio similar to Hazelight. You can see how passionate they are about this cooperative experience. By the way, you won't find any microtransactions here. Well, quite the opposite. There's a friend pass that allows someone to play with you absolutely free. In general, these guys know how to make couch co-op special. You'll get an incredible cooperative experience, the likes of which has never existed before and probably won't exist for a very long time. Well, maybe the next game from the same studio, which, by the way, they're already working on full steam ahead. That's a little announcement for you. Maybe yes, it'll be able to surpass this project. Who knows? That's what can happen when you give a genius complete creative freedom. Wreckfest 2. Raw but already tasty. I bought the game as soon as it appeared for sale. And friends, I don't regret it one bit. The game's essence here is pretty simple. Survive in this car carnage. There are both classic races where you need to come first. Although if you just reach the finish line, no matter what place, that's already considered a victory. And the most popular mode is Derby. In simple words, complete metal mayhem. Yes, there's little content now. Yes, you can still feel rawness in some places. But Wreckfest 2 is already head and shoulders above the first part in graphics, physics, and overall driving sensations. Cars behave lively, every crash feels quite meaty, and destructibility became even more spectacular and realistic. If you're a fan of the original, you'll definitely feel the difference immediately. This isn't just number 2 in the title, and it's a quality leap forward. New physics, improved effects, racing dynamics, everything became more modern and overall much more brutal. It's especially satisfying to wreck an opponent's car and see the tiniest pieces fly off their machine. And, it's hard to describe, but you even feel the car's real weight. Right now, the project is still in development, so don't expect dozens of new tracks and hundreds of cars, but buying now, you're not just playing, you're investing in Wreckfest 2's future. When it's fully released, it'll definitely cost more. And thanks to the developers for not just copying the first part, but really upgrading everything from the engine to behind-the-wheel sensations. I'm eagerly waiting to see what comes next. I recommend the new part, especially to those who want to participate in the project's development and feel real progress in the destructive racing genre. Tempest Rising. The developers were heavily inspired by the Command & Conquer series, and I'd even say they copied some things exactly. One faction looks like GDI, has goals and motivations like GDI, and is called, attention, GDF. But actually, it's also a mix of Red Alert and Tiberian Sun in my opinion, and the music is exactly like it was back then, 1,000 years ago. In short, guys, if you're fans of the previously mentioned games, then you definitely can't pass by Tempest Rising. Among the positives, there are very cool, albeit typical story campaigns for both factions, between which they show cool cutscenes. And what surprised me, there's even dialogue choice to somehow influence missions, learn more about the world, and so on. Graphics and sound are beyond praise, while everything works great in terms of optimization, which is rare nowadays. Factions try to be different. They even collect resources differently. There are interesting mechanics and standout units. There's some semblance of balance. Now, you can't just build 100 tanks and rush the entire map. You need to try mixing troops, using abilities, and so on. And by the way, the AI isn't the dumbest and most boring. It can give you heat on high difficulty even if you're already a seasoned strategist. Among the minuses, I personally noted the absence of a third side at release, although they've already announced it, or rather its presence. In general, friends, the game is pretty cool for a supposedly dead genre. I advise RTS lovers not to pass by, or get it later on discounts when they add the third faction. Dune Awakening. Let's go through the pros and cons of this game, evaluating its, let's say, pre-release state, since everything could change dramatically in the future. But what do we have now, friends? The positives are obvious here. Those who love games focused on survival and open world will definitely like the game. There's a fairly large Arrakis map to explore, finding various bandit camps, caves, and other outposts with trading points. Sometimes you can stumble upon really interesting places like abandoned laboratories or crashed spaceships. From a survival elements perspective, everything is generally executed excellently. Here, you really have to survive. Take shelter from the scorching sun, escape dehydration, avoid bandits, Sard Okar patrols, quicksand, and of course the legendary Shai Hulud. That's a little worm for those who don't know. Its implementation in the game is simply excellent. It looks really, terrifying. Like every time crossing the sands, you nervously look around and pray to reach the nearest rocky terrain in time. The game also has lots of diverse crafting and blueprints that need to be unlocked gradually by completing story missions. There's also an orders system. Completing them brings various rewards. By the way, building is implemented quite conveniently. Thanks to the intuitive interface, you can easily build a beautiful house or even an entire base. In the end, I can say the game hooked me. Yes, despite some bugs and currently weak optimization, but you can already get enjoyment from it, especially if you're a Dune universe fan, because the atmosphere is really there. Let's see what happens next with the project's development. I hope future updates will make the game even better. Elden Ring, NightReign. I'll start my review by saying I completely don't understand the whining and Steam refunds from many players. Yes, this game doesn't reach for the stars. Yes, it doesn't invent something super new. Half of those pouring out negativity bought it without even understanding what kind of project this is. But the game doesn't have to please everyone. The developers tried an experiment, and I think it succeeded. Battle Royale in medieval setting, not all these already worn-out automatic shooters. This is something truly unique. You also learn points of interest, places advantageous for this or that class, and leveling up, you go through a short but intense story. Here are 8 bosses, a changing map, 7 balanced heroes. Overall, I'd say the game is very fun if you, of course, like Souls-like combat and get pleasure from speed runs or challenge runs in similar games. The combat system became noticeably faster, which honestly makes the game much more interesting, and different characters provide good variety in gaming experience. Essentially, each run feels, like a compressed Souls game playthrough. However, the game has a couple problems, the main one being lack of variety. After about 30 hours, you'll probably see 90% of all content in the game, and for a roguelike, that's pretty little in my opinion. Overall, I'd give the game 9 out of 10, and would recommend it only to those who really love games like Elden Ring, and just want some variety in the Souls-like genre. And overall, friends, in today's times, gamers have just gotten spoiled and simply forgot what games are, how to play them, and how diverse they can be. Friends, if you like this game, don't listen to anyone and play for your own pleasure. Mandragora. A game worthy of standing on the same shelf as Hollow Knight. Ori Dialogue's Dark Souls. Mandragora looks, sounds, and plays simply amazingly. You can feel it was created by a large team with a decent budget. 10-minute credits listing everyone involved won't let me lie. And it's also an example of how well Souls and Metroidvania can combine in one package. From the first, there's a character stat-based leveling system that affects damage, weapons, and skills depending on class. Plus there are souls, bonfires, rolls, and parrying. From the second, thoughtful 2D level design, motivated backtracking, lots of secrets, and optional bosses. There's also an extensive crafting, alchemy, cooking system that's smartly tied to resources dropped by mobs. And this whole cocktail, you won't believe, friends, harmoniously combines, is fully utilized, and works. You can see that special attention was paid to testing and balancing. Moderate difficulty, good duration, by the way, in my case, full completion took 50 hours, and huge potential for replayability is also here since there are different classes and builds. Well, and 2 small spoonfuls of tar in a barrel of honey. The story and lore in the game exist, but they're minimal. The story is just, like a guide through locations. And one more insignificant minus. A skilled young player will probably reach the finale in about 25 hours, but if you're as casual as me, you'll have to... How to put this gently? Grind a bit to fully upgrade crafting, create the best weapons and armor, gain a couple dozen extra levels so when meeting the next boss, you don't fall flat on your face after 10 seconds. But actually, these are all trifles. Before us is a real diamond. Essentially, this is AAA in the genre. How to name this genre? Well, let it be Metro Soulsvania. A project of such quality and development comes out once every few years, if not once a decade. And this game fully justifies its considerable cost, so I recommend this game to you, friends. But at least on discounts, it's definitely worth getting.